Alright, let's go. You wanna know about real hockey? You gotta go back to the beginning. It all started in Canada, where it should be. Back in 1917, a bunch of fellas in Montreal got together and said, let's do this right. They created the National Hockey League. It wasn't fancy like today, no sir. Just 4 Canadian teams. The Montreal Canadiens, the Montreal Wanderers, the Ottawa Senators, and the Toronto Arenas. These guys were tough, played for the love of the game, and weren't afraid to drop the gloves. That's the way it was. Good Canadian boys playing a good Canadian game. It was pure, it was simple, it was hockey. Now those early years were something else. The Toronto Arenas became the St. Patrick's, and then the Maple Leafs we know today. The Canadians, the Habs, they were there from the start. A real classy organization. They battled it out, city against city, for the ultimate prize, the Stanley Cup. Lord Stanley, one of our Governor Generals, gave us that beautiful trophy. It was all about pride, about representing your hometown. You didn't have guys from all over the world then. You had guys from Timmins, from Moose Jaw, from right here in Kingston. That's what made it special. A true Canadian league for Canadian players. Then came the era everyone talks about, the original 6. From 1942 to 1967, it was just 6 teams. The Montreal Canadiens, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Boston Bruins, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Detroit Red Wings, and the New York Rangers. 2 Canadian teams, 4 American. That was the league, and boy was it a battle every night. You played the same guys over and over again. You knew their moves, you knew their tricks, and you hated every single one of them on the ice. There were no easy games. You had to fight for every inch of ice, and the rivalries were legendary. Let me tell you, those were the glory days. You had guys like Gordie Howe, Rocket Richard, Jean Beliveau. Real men, real hockey players. They didn't have the fancy equipment they have today. Their sticks were wood, their pads were leather, and they didn't wear helmets. Can you believe that? They played with heart and guts. The Leafs won their last cup in 1967, right at the end of that era. It's a crying shame they haven't won since. A real heartbreaker for a great city. But that era, the original 6, that was the gold standard. That was hockey at its toughest and its best. Things started to change in 1967. The league decided to get bigger, to double in size. They added 6 new teams all at once, all in the United States. You got the California Seals, the Los Angeles Kings, the Minnesota North Stars, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the St. Louis Blues. The owners wanted to get into new markets, get more TV deals. They saw what football and baseball were doing and wanted a piece of the pie. It changed the game, that's for sure. All of a sudden, you had new cities, new fans, and a whole lot of new players getting a shot. Then, another league popped up, the World Hockey Association, the WHA. They came along in 1972 and tried to take on the NHL. They had different ideas like playing in cities the NHL ignored. They had a red, white, and blue puck. They started throwing around big money, trying to steal players. And they got some big ones, let me tell you. The biggest one was Bobby Hull, who left Chicago for $1 million to play for the Winnipeg Jets. That sent a shockwave through the hockey world. The WHA was for real, and they weren't backing down from a fight with the big boys. But the biggest thing the WHA did was sign kids. They weren't afraid to sign young guys the NHL said were too young to play pro. And that's how they got a skinny kid from Brantford, Ontario, a kid named Wayne Gretzky. He played for the Indianapolis Racers and then the Edmonton Oilers in the WHA. He was a phenom, a once-in-a-lifetime player. The NHL knew they couldn't let this talent stay in another league. So in 1979, the battle was over. The NHL took in 4 WHA teams, the Edmonton Oilers, the Winnipeg Jets, the Quebec Nordiques, and the Hartford Whalers. It was a merger, and it brought the great one to the NHL. And what an impact he had. Wayne Gretzky wasn't the biggest or the fastest, but he was the smartest player I ever saw. He turned the Edmonton Oilers into a dynasty, winning 4 Stanley Cups in the 1980s. He shattered every scoring record in the book. Then came the trade that broke Canada's heart. On August 9, 1988, he was traded to the Los Angeles Kings. It was a dark day for Canada. We lost our greatest player to Hollywood. But you know what? He went down there and made hockey popular in California. He was an ambassador for the game, a true superstar. He put hockey on the map in places that never cared before. After Gretzky went to LA, everything changed. The league saw dollar signs in the sun. They started putting teams in places you'd never expect. San Jose, Tampa Bay, Florida, Anaheim. You had hockey in the desert in Arizona. It was a whole new world. The NHL was expanding like crazy, trying to become a major American sport. They wanted to be in every big city. While all these American cities were getting teams, we in Canada were losing them. It was a tough pill to swallow. Good Canadian fans in Quebec City and Winnipeg lost their beloved teams. The Quebec Nordiques moved to Colorado and became the Avalanche. Can you believe it? They won the Stanley Cup their very first year there. That one stung. Then the Winnipeg Jets packed up and moved to Phoenix to become the Coyotes. It was all about money, about bigger arenas and corporate support. It felt like the league was turning its back on its roots, on the Canadian fans who built this game. We got the Senators back in Ottawa, and the Jets eventually returned to Winnipeg, which was fantastic. But the loss of the Nordiques still hurts a lot of people in Quebec. It's just not right. Then you had the lockouts. Times when the players and the owners couldn't agree on how to split up all the money. They stopped playing hockey. In 1994, they cancelled a bunch of games. Then in 2004 to 2005, they cancelled the whole season. An entire year without the Stanley Cup. It was a disgrace. Fans were angry, and rightfully so. We just wanted to watch hockey, and the millionaires were fighting with the billionaires. It happened again in 2012. These fights hurt the game, no doubt about it. It takes time to win the fans back after you tell them there's no hockey for them. But the league kept growing. They put a team in Nashville, in Columbus, even in Las Vegas. Who would have thought you'd have hockey in the middle of the desert like that? The Vegas Golden Knights came into the league in 2017 and went all the way to the Stanley Cup final in their first year. It was an incredible story. They showed that hockey could work anywhere if you do it right. Then came the Seattle Kraken. The league was getting bigger and richer, spreading across the continent. It was a long way from those 4 Canadian teams that started it all back in 1917. The game today looks a lot different than it used to. It's not just Canadian boys anymore. You've got players from all over the world. Swedes, Finns, Russians, Czechs, Americans, Swiss, Germans, you name it. They're some of the best players in the league. Guys like Ovechkin from Russia, a goal-scoring machine, or the great Swedish defensemen like Lidstrom and Karlsson. This influx of talent has made the game faster and more skilled than ever before. It's a global game now, and that's brought a new level of excitement. These kids today can really fly, and the league keeps trying new things to keep the fans excited. My favorite is the outdoor games. The Winter Classic on New Year's Day, the Stadium Series games. They put a rink in a big football or baseball stadium and thousands of fans come out to watch. It brings hockey back to its roots, playing on a frozen pond, just with 70,000 people watching. It's a beautiful thing to see. It creates memories that last a lifetime for players and fans. These events are a huge success and show how special our game can be when it's showcased on a grand stage. Of course, it's all about winning that beautiful Stanley Cup. The Montreal Canadiens have won it the most, 24 times. That's a record that will be tough to beat. But new dynasties pop up. You had the Chicago Blackhawks winning 3 cups in 6 years. Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins won it back-to-back. Then you have Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals finally getting their championship. And as I said, it's a crying shame about the Toronto Maple Leafs since 1967. That's a long time for such a great hockey city to wait. It's a tough league to win in. So what's next for the NHL? The game is always changing, always evolving. Will we see more expansion? Everyone in Quebec wants their Nordiques back, and I think they deserve a team. Salt Lake City looks like it's getting a team. Who knows where they'll go next? The game is faster, the players are bigger, and the business is bigger than ever. But at its heart, it's still the same game I fell in love with as a kid. It's about courage, teamwork, and putting that little black puck in the net. It's the greatest game in the world. And that's the way I see it.